Now, of course, when people get to know you, they'll judge you by more than just how you appear. But physical, outside, inside. Here's what's good advice. Make sure the outside is an excellent reflection of the inside. Interesting phrase written. It says, God looks on the inside, people look on the outside. So you got to take care of both. The inside for God and the outside for people. What's the old phrase? You never have a second chance to make a first impression. So the outside appearance is also valuable as well as inside vigor and vitality. Somebody says, well, people shouldn't judge you by your appearance. Let me give you a clue. They do. Take care of both. Here's another one. I had to work on being late. For the people that are always late, what do they care? They're not there when you get there. It doesn't matter, but if you truly want to make progress, not alienate, right, in the marketplace, here's what's acceptable to everybody. Being on time, right? Not being on time is acceptable probably, to a lot of people, but some, it's going to cost you. Now, the mind must be nourished. It's got to have good food. Food for thought. Bread for the head, we call it. Yes, you need a slice of toast in the morning, right, for your body, but you need a slice of cassette. A slice of cassette you put in the car system and listen. Let something feed your mind. Stand guard at the door of your mind. Don't just listen to anything and everything. Make sure that you're your own best filter of what goes into your mental factory and spins out the fabric of your life and future. Stand guard at the door of your mind. Spend time. Be a selective listener. But you got to have a good diet, a good mental diet. When you walk into a home and walk into the pantry of the kitchen, you take a look what's in there. This family's either going to be healthy or it isn't going to be healthy. And a lot depends on what's in the cupboard. What you bring home, right, from the grocery store that you feast on for the body. Now here's what's important. A proper menu for the mind to make sure that it's got a wide range of nourishment. Because the mind needs the full education. Now, that starts to develop the foundation for what we call a good life, a productive life, a fulfilled life. And we need this mental input. 2 days is a little staggering in terms of sort of a crash program. And you couldn't do it every week, a couple of days every week. It would be too much. But a couple of days to just really concentrate for a while. Hopefully I send you away from here tomorrow a little mind weary. Right? Of taking all these notes and trying to get it all and trying to think about it while you take notes. I know it's an intense session of a couple of days, but I'm telling you, it's going to be so valuable for me to express it and for you to get it. Because then you just load up your wagon full of stuff here. Mental wagon to take it home and sort it out and decide what's valuable to try today. Some that you're going to think about a little bit later, but now at least you've got it. So that you'll have mental food to feast on long after the lights are out and we've left the premises. So, feed the mind, debate, exercise, a continual diet. You can't go too long in between the classes and the schools and the seminars and the sermons and where things are being taught of value. Here's what else is important. You got to go to everything you can afford. Have a good plan, weekly plan, monthly plan to go to a variety of things. And don't miss the chance. Even if you're involved in a certain company and they say, we're going to have a training class. You say, I've been to one of those. I'm asking you, got to go again and you got to go again. You can't get it all the first time. Here's what the early Christians were taught. Don't neglect the assembly. Why? We got a brand new idea. One is it's being challenged. We need the strength of each other and the exchange of ideas to make this thing grow. And 2,000 years later, it's a very vigorous movement. But they were taught when it started, don't neglect to get, every time they call a meeting, make sure you're there every time they call a meeting. And whatever industry you're in, whatever company you're in, when they call a meeting, make sure you're there. When they call a little training class, make sure you're there. Here's why. Some of them are going to be life-changing. And you don't know which experience is going to be life-changing. You can't pick the one. You just got to go. One is life-changing. You go. Another one is life-changing. You go again. Another one is life-changing. For the people that were there, somebody that you met, something that you heard, and that one was just perfect. The atmosphere was right, the crowd was right, and everything was right, and you'll never be the same again. And you don't know which one that's going to be. That's why you've got to pursue. Go often have a good plan for the search of knowledge and ideas that can inspire to the best of your potential. So now we've got the physical, we've got the spiritual, we've got the mental parts of personal development. Now let's keep going. When I began planning this program, I looked up the word character in the dictionary. I learned the origin of the word, and then I just sat there for a minute and realized that in this case, the origin of the word just about says it all. So I'm going to tell you where the word character comes from, and I'd hope it has as big an effect on you as it did on me. But first I want to just quickly mention the origins of another word that people often confuse with character, just to clarify the differences. That other word is charisma, and I think that it's often confused with character today. But charisma is really quite different. Charisma is derived from a Greek word meaning an ability to elicit favor in other people. It's a magnetic quality of personality that people respond to as if it were magic. Charisma is almost like a magic wand that confers power over others. But character has a very different origin. Character comes from a Greek word meaning chisel, or the mark left by a chisel. I'm going to repeat that because I think it's very important. Character is derived from the Greek word for chisel. And of course, a chisel is a sharp steel tool used for making a sculpture out of a hard or difficult material like granite or marble. And a chisel is also used for stripping away waste material from an object, stripping away stuff that might get in the way in order to get down to the essential thing, the thing that really matters. You've got to chisel your character out of the raw material of yourself, just like a sculptor has to create a statue. The raw material is always there. Everything that happens to you, good or bad, is an opportunity for building your character. Let me point out another important distinction between character and charisma. You may have noticed it already. In both its definition and its derivation, character doesn't refer to other people. It doesn't refer to having power over other people or getting other people to follow you or gaining favor with other people. Character is something that you have and that you are. You could be marooned on a desert island, and your character would still be important. In fact, it would likely be very important in that situation. But charisma wouldn't do you any good at all. Charisma requires the presence of others, while character is all about you. Character is the person you are after you've chiseled and have gotten past all the unnecessary material to what's underneath. But since we're usually surrounded by other people, let me be a little more specific about how the differences between a charismatic person and a person with character can play out in the real world, particularly in leadership situations. Here are 4 sets of circumstances that can easily occur. First, a really charismatic person can make people believe there's pie in the sky, or that the sky is going to fall tomorrow, one just as easily as the other. By creating these expectations, charismatic individuals can indeed energize and inspire others, or terrify and demotivate them, until the overblown scenarios are proven false and the charisma runs out. But a person of character doesn't need to be anyone's Pied Piper and isn't comfortable in that role. Instead, he or she looks within for the true source of inspiration and energy. Second, a charismatic person can inspire devoted or even fanatical loyalty. But this can all too easily turn into an unconscious sense of dependency, and that can make matters difficult when the leader is no longer available. Like a charismatic coach, effective during the glory years, but when he leaves the organization, there is a sense of abandonment, and the team may never achieve anything like its prior success.
Powerful personalities often resist delegating authority, but it's an attitude of character for a leader to refrain from making himself or herself the indispensable heart and soul of an organization. Here's a third difference between character and charisma that's particularly important in a leadership situation. Charismatic people have to keep pulling rabbits out of the hat. The magic of their presence has got to keep expressing itself, or people might start wondering where it went. Worse yet, they might start getting bored. There were plenty of charismatic individuals around, such as Churchill, Montgomery, de Gaulle, and Patton. What was needed was somebody with toughness, stamina, and ability to manage people. Just before the Normandy invasion in 1944, Eisenhower met with a group of officers who would be going into battle. He stretched out a piece of string on a table and pulled it a few inches with his finger. "An army is like this piece of string," he said. "If you try to push it from behind, it just tangles and doubles back on itself. Soldiers have to be led from the front, not pushed from behind." Eisenhower may not have been colorful, but he could definitely get his point across in a way anyone could understand. He had character in the true sense. One of the biggest pitfalls for a charismatic leader comes straight from his or her ability to inspire love and devotion. And this is the last point I want to make. In order to bask in the warm glow of a leader's approval, people may become reluctant to voice disagreements. There are people who become isolated because subordinates are afraid of them. But the same isolation can occur as a result of misplaced affection. People of character are usually well loved by everyone around them, but they make it clear that their own first love is for the truth, even if it hurts. Because character is what's left after charisma is gone. I'd like to elaborate a bit on a comparison I made earlier about how creating your character is like an artist creating a sculpture. The essential point is this: I don't think character is something that just happens by itself, any more than a chisel can create a work of art without the hand of an artist guiding it. In both instances, a conscious decision has been made. A conscious process of design is at work. Character is the result of hundreds and hundreds of choices you may make that gradually turn who you are at any given moment into who you want to be. If that decision-making process is not present, you'll still be somebody, you'll still be alive, but may have a personality rather than a character. And to me, that's something very different. You build character out of certain qualities that you must create and diligently nurture within yourself, just like you would plant and water a seed or gather wood and build a campfire. You've got to look for those things in your heart and in your gut. You've got to chisel away in order to find them, just like chiseling away rock in order to create the sculpture that has previously existed only in your imagination. But the really amazing thing about character is that if you're sincerely committed to making yourself into the person you want to be, you'll not only create those qualities, you'll strengthen them and recreate them in abundance, even as you're drawing on them every day of your life.
Now let's keep going. Ideas plus inspiration. Make the note, we need ideas for goals and plans to design our life for the future. Tomorrow we'll do the workshop, setting goals for the next 10 years. Ideas for plans to achieve those goals. But here's what else we need: inspiration. Emotional vitality. Without that, the ideas, won't progress very far. They may serve you to just get by, but I'm sure you haven't spent this kind of money and this kind of time to pick up ideas just to get by. But we want to be able to flourish. However, that is a human being's two major objectives. And you might make these notes. One is to survive. First, we must learn to survive. Second, then, we learn to succeed, which is beyond survival. But most people settle in just in sort of the survival mode, enough to get by. They've got all these resources to tap, and they don't tap them because, they're getting by. Their kids aren't starving. They got a roof over their head and some clothes to wear and food to eat. But to go way beyond that, to flourish, not just to survive, but to flourish. I'm sure that's what all of us are here these 2 days for, to find more ideas on how to do that. Now, the idea part is fairly basic and upfront, right? We're going to talk about time management ideas. We're going to talk about leadership ideas. We're going to talk about good health ideas. We're going to talk about all kinds of ideas. And they're fairly easy to put forward. Here's what's a little more tricky, inspiration. Who knows why one's inspired and one is not inspired? Here's what I call it. It's a good thing to remember for the rest of your life. It's called the mysteries of the mind. And you'll be confronted with that forever, the mysteries. Here's what we have to do with most mysteries. Leave them mysteries. And learn to be curious instead of dismayed. Say, why is it this way? Say, I don't know. You get your own planet, you could rearrange it some other way. But on this planet, we seem to be guests. So you figure out how this one works, whoever set it up, right? We follow how it's been set up. Then if you get a chance for a planet, then you can rearrange the whole deal and say, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So if you ever get that chance, you can do that. But hey, on this one, it was prearranged before we dropped in here. But on the spinning planet headed somewhere, right, what is the deal? And part of it is a mystery. One of the mysteries. Where did we come from? Where are we going? Some of those are a bit unfathomable. We try our best to understand. One writer said, what? We see through the dark glass. We think we've just about got it figured out, but it's a little hazy. It's a little dark. We can't see it quite as clear. But all of our lifetime, we keep searching for ways to see it better, see it better. Someday, hopefully, it'll all be clear. But some things are mysteries. I do a seminar like this. Someone walks out and says, I'm going to change my life. Someone else walks out and says, oh, I've heard all this stuff before. Why two different reactions to the same seminar? Just make the note. It's a mystery. And I haven't tried to solve that. You say, well, I'm going to make everybody walk out and say, I'm going to change my life. See, no, you can't do that. It's going to be however it's going to be. And the key is to be curious and not dismayed. Let the mysteries be mysteries. Interesting story says the day the Christian church was started, a magnificent sermon was preached. And if you read the account of the sermon that was preached the first day the Christian church was started, it was a magnificent sermon. And it was a magnificent occasion. It said there was a multitude that heard this sermon, meaning what? A lot of people heard it. But there was an incredible variety of reaction to the people that heard the sermon. It said some that heard the sermon were perplexed. And I thought, wow, this looked like a pretty straightforward sermon to me. Why would anyone be perplexed? And here's the simple answer. They are the perplexed. I mean, if you try to figure that out, you go crazy. And here's what I learned to do. Leave the perplexed. You can't straighten this out. It said some that heard this great sermon laughed at the speaker and mocked, laughed and made fun of him. I'd say, well, hey, this guy looked pretty sincere to me. Why would anyone laugh and mock? And it's a simple answer. They are the laughers and the mockers. And there's nothing you can do about that. You can't straighten it out and you can't turn it around. You just have to let be whatever is and let it be rather mysterious, but learn to be curious and not dismayed. Then it said some that heard this sermon didn't know what was going on. And they're easy to spot. They're usually saying, what's going on, right? They don't know what's going on. Somebody says, well, they should know. Well, your shoulds and shouldn'ts ain't going to affect it. It's like saying the sun should come up in the west. No, you got to leave this stuff alone. Just let the mysteries be mysteries and let what happens. Let that all be. So some were perplexed, some mocked and laughed, some didn't know what was going on. But here's the rest of the story. It said some that heard the sermon believed. And that's who the speaker was looking for, the believers mixed in this whole mysterious array of human reaction to the same presentation. And you've just got to let this whole mixture of reaction be a mixture of reaction. And you can't be dismayed by it. Otherwise, the only cure for it is to get your own planet. Otherwise, there is no cure. Because I used to try to straighten all this stuff out. In the beginning, I used to say, I'll make them successful if it kills me. I almost died. You can't do that. It said some believed. And that's who the speaker was looking for, the believers out of this massive audience of a multitude. Now, here's what was interesting. It said the number that believed was about 3,000. So it was a pretty good first day. So make the note. You can have a good day in spite of the mystery. In spite of the mystery of reaction, in spite of who's who, in spite of what happens, in spite of the full variety of human reaction and human behavior, in spite of the whole mix in each community, in each place, in each school, wherever, in spite of this whole mysterious mix of how things are and how humans react and how they behave, here's what you can have: a good day. 3,000 the first day. Wouldn't you call that a good day? 3,000. I've had some pretty good days, but not 3,000. Amazing. So, let the mysteries be mysteries. But inspiration, hopefully I've caught you at the right time where you'll be inspired to listen, inspired to take notes, and then inspired to give it a try. And this is all I ask after the seminar's finished. Just try some of this stuff. Some of the ideas I'm going to share with you the next 2 days. Just give it a try. You never know till you try, Papa said. See if it'll work for you. And then here's what's next. Refine it all as you go. First you learn, then you try, then you refine, then you evaluate, then you pass it on. But here's the key, is to turn response into results. I appreciate applause, but applause is not the deal. For me, here's what's valuable, is to have this stuff work in someone's life. To have it make a difference in someone's income, have it make a difference in someone's financial future, have it make a difference in someone's health, measurable difference in someone's future and health. That's my game. And if I can give you something that'll help make a measurable difference as time passes, see, that's what's it for me. Key phrase, results, is the name of the game. I do another seminar called The 5 Major Pieces. It's also the title of a book, but here's those pieces. One is philosophy. We're affected by what we know. Next is attitude. We're affected by how we feel. Third is activity, or disciplines, or work. Labor, it's called. We're affected by what we do. And number 4 is results. Learn to measure and count to see how you're doing. Making progress is the name of the game. And here's how I describe it. Measurable progress in reasonable time. That's what we ask of our kids. That's what we ask of everybody. Make measurable progress in reasonable time. But results is the name of the game. We don't study philosophy just for philosophy, or attitude just for attitude, or discipline just for discipline. These things by themselves serve no purpose. But these 3 items invested in labor, in the work, produces results. Now we measure our results to see how our disciplines are working, how our attitude is working, and how our philosophy is working. And if the results aren't to your liking, there's only 3 places to check: discipline, attitude, philosophy, personal philosophy. It's a pretty simple process. Some people check interest rates. Well, but, that's not where the real problem probably is. Check what you know. You may need more knowledge. Check how you feel. You may need to adjust your attitude. And check your disciplines, and you may need to add a couple to the ones you're already engaged in. And that'll start immediately to changing the results that you can measure, that you can count. And you might add one more word here: weigh. Okay, weigh and count and measure. Because the game is productivity, progress and productivity. Then something we're going to talk about, which was number 5, which is lifestyle. Because here's the ultimate expression of life, and that's to live a good life. Living well is the ultimate expression, not philosophy, not attitude, but living well. Hopefully I'll give you some guidelines that have come my way, translating response to results. Now, just finishing up, make these notes. To get the most out of the 2 days, here's number 1. Everybody would agree on number 1. Be thankful for what you already have. Here's the next one. Be eager to learn. I know you already know a lot, but be eager to learn the rest. I've learned a lot in my years, but I'm eager to learn the rest. Now I'm trying to capsulize my learning. I'm trying to accelerate my learning, right? Because I don't have a couple hundred years left. So I've got to accelerate my learning curve, especially in the next 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 years. And I'm asking you to do the same. An accelerated learning curve to maximize the time to learn as much now in 1 year as you used to learn over 5 years. Just accelerate the curve. Eager to learn. No matter how much you know, you can always learn a bit more. Improve your life, sometimes to a startling degree. Some of the great fortunes of the world were made, what? After someone turned 50, 60. Because now they've got all this experience. Now when an idea comes, they invest 50 years. They invest 60 years in this idea, and it explodes into fortune. So as maturity comes along, what a great time now to come up with good ideas, because now you can maximize their possibilities because of your maturity and what you already know. So be eager to grasp that next idea, because it could explode your health, explode your life. It could start a whole new realm of future for you at dimensions you never even thought of, the next idea, the next couple of ideas. So be eager to learn no matter how rich you are, how healthy you are, where you are. So no matter where you are, be eager for that next idea. Some of you have been teaching like I have for years and years and years, but be ready for the next idea, because it could explode now, your teaching career. It could add new dimensions because of where you are and because of your age and because of your maturity and because of whatever. The next effort you make to get something, no telling what that may add in terms of multiplication in your life and your ability to affect the lives of other people. Amazing. Here's what also I'd ask you to do. Argue later with all the stuff I'm going to cover. I wish we had time to debate every issue, because a lot of this stuff's up for debate. Nobody knows that better than me. And I've been doing my best all these years to debate, my point of view, as well as to listen from the other point of view. But, I would ask you to argue later, because we don't have time to open up discussion for every point that I'm going to cover in the next 2 days. But here's what's important. Debate all major issues. Some issues are fairly sort of obvious. Say, well, I can see the positive side of that right away. But some need discussion. Now, here's what's valuable, to discuss some things with someone else. Debate back and forth. In Israel, one of the great forms of learning is debate. You walk into the classroom, wow, it sounds like confusion. Or they get a hold of an idea, and one gets on one side, and one takes one position, the other one takes the other position, and one says, this is it, and someone says, no, you're mistaken. Here's what you failed to read. Someone says, well, I didn't know that. And then they advance their point of view and say, no, I think you're wrong here. You haven't done your research. How about this, this, and this? The person says, oh, you're right. I didn't do that research. And this verbal debate back and forth goes on in Israel. An Israeli part of learning is this debate. So here's what's important, is to debate the major life issues. In good health today, the great debate is on, which has given us advances we've never had before. So here's what you must be, though, in the debate: a good student. Open to learning, defending and learning. That's what's important, not just to defend, but to defend and learn. Defend your point of view until it's sort of obvious that you've got to give some ground here because you haven't done your research. But this debating is important. We have to debate the health issues. One health book says, do this, you'll live forever. The second health book says, if you do that, you'll die young. So here's what we should do. Make the note, right? Be a student, not a follower. This is important advice. Not to be followers, but to be students. Be no one's disciple except the Lord's. You wind up in Waco, Texas. Be no one's disciple. But be a student. Someone says, well, these 2 books now have opposing views about health. Here's what you should do. Answer. Read both books and make up your own mind. Read both books and see if you can't figure out some way so that it applies to you, maybe drawing from both presentations. Not to follow one or the other, but to draw from one or the other, or maybe both, and develop a plan for you. Here's some of the best advice I've got for you. Make sure what you finally do is the product of your own conclusion. Make sure what you finally do in your financial pursuit, in your health pursuit, in building a good family pursuit, in developing your spirituality, make sure what you finally do in pursuit of that is the product of your own conclusion, meaning you've processed differing points of view. You've processed what you've learned matched with what someone is teaching you. Here's what's important. No one voice has all the answers. I certainly don't. I only have my point of view. I only have my perception. But my perception may be valuable. What if I say to you, did you ever look at this from over here? And you say, no. So you walk over here where I am, and you take a look, and you say, wow, I never saw it from over here before. And maybe that look, from my point of view, is an interesting perception. It may reveal something that from over there, looking at it, you missed it. You missed my point of view. Not that my point of view is the point of view, but it is a point of view. Right? There's a difference between a point of view and the point of view. Here's the first skill that revolutionized my life. Sales. Learning to present a product and service to the marketplace. I multiplied my income by 5 first year. Multiple skills. So now I got 2 skills. Milking cows and making sales. But the skill revolutionized my life. I had never seen that perspective before of how I could so dynamically affect my income by learning this extra skill. Amazing. So be eager to learn, argue later, but debate, right? Is it for me or isn't it for me? Do I have the temperament? What is the deal? Should I start now and learn, or should I postpone it? What should I do? All of this stuff is very good. Turn it over in your mind till finally you decide. Next, become a good listener. It is difficult. We live in such a busy time. It's going to be a little difficult to shut everything out for 2 days and just concentrate here. Because our life's out there, right? Our family's out there, and our friends are out there, and our business is out there, and things are going on out there. Things are happening out there, right? And sometimes out there, we get sort of distracted thinking a lot about what's out there. But if you can, to the best of your ability, zero in here, give you the best of your attention that you possibly can. Let me just at least start our first subject for today. It's called enlightened self-interest. Part of human nature is self-protection. Part of human nature is self-survival, self-development so that we can defend ourselves and explore the possibilities in ourselves. Self-interest. Now here's the big question. Is that okay, self-interest? And here's my best answer. If it's enlightened. If it's enlightened. Otherwise it turns to selfishness. And here's the unique thing about selfishness. It is not in your best self-interest. We must learn that early. When a little child, grabs something away from another child and is selfish, doesn't want to share it. Say, no, that is not in your best interest. And at first it doesn't seem like it. At first it seems like, no, what's in my best interest is what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine, and this whole sort of selfish idea. But this is part of becoming a civilized society, is learning that truly in the long run your best interest is served by not being selfish. But here's what we cannot do: deny our own self-interest. But if our self-interest becomes educated, it can be uniquely served so that everyone benefits and no one loses. How could it be possible to work in your own self-interest and still no one else lose? It's very interesting. Let me give you the first idea. The question was asked once, way back. What does it take to be great? What is the key to greatness? And that's a good question for everybody to make a note of. What is the key to greatness? The full development of our potential. Because that's really 2 parts to life. Is the full development of our potential and the wise use of all of our resources. You can't describe life, human life, any better than that. The full development of all of our potential and the wise use of all of our resources. That's worth a few books. Just those 2 sentences is worth several books. Full development of all of our potential and the wise use of all of our resources. But in the development of our potential, the question was asked, how can we be great? Or should we even seek for greatness? Now, the answer was given how to be great, so it must have been okay. And let me break it down for you. The key to greatness, how to act in your own self-interest, but still not diminish the interest of anyone else. And it's a very simple answer. Now, greatness could be defined in many ways. Great wealth, great power, great influence, great self-esteem, great self-respect. There's many kinds of greatness. But how could we achieve all of that greatness in some measure or ongoing measure? How could we achieve that? Here was the simple answer. It said this: find a way to serve the many. Find a way to serve the many. It is the greatest key to self-interest. Now, at first, it doesn't seem like it, but that's what education is all about, is to take what at first seems to be the best and then find out later, no, that's right, that's not the best. In teaching financial independence to kids, guess what we teach? Someone say, well, what's best now is to spend your money. Say, no, that's what seems to be best. That's what seems to be best. But if you give it a little thought now and attend a couple of classes, guess what you'll learn? That isn't the best. What I first thought was the best turned out, when I was more educated, that wasn't the best. So here's what we teach kids. The best is discipline of your resources. So here's what we teach kids. Do what you have to as quick as you can so you can do what you want to as long as you can. Do what you have to. Save your money. Invest your money. Do what you have to. Conserve your resources. Exercise the discipline now, because then that later leads to many years of self-satisfaction. So that's what education is all about, to turn around what seems to be our best interest and say, no, now I understand that isn't what's best. You got a toothache. You got a cavity in your tooth. What seems to be best is just to neglect and say, oh, well. But here's what's the problem with the cavity. It doesn't get better. So you got to go take care of it. And the dentist says what? You can take care of it now, it only costs this much. Later, it costs this much. So you can pay me now or pay me later. You say, hey, in my own best interest, what? Better to pay up front. Discipline is better up front. Now, so that we can enjoy those later years, to have plenty. So here's what it says. If you wish to be great in all kinds of greatness, have trophies to put on the mantle above the fireplace. If you wish all that kind of greatness, recognition and respect and all of it, here's the key. Find a way to serve. So we might shorten it to read like this. Service to many leads to greatness. Now, at first, that doesn't seem to create personal greatness, serving others. But now, when we become educated, we finally find out, yes, that's true. Service to many leads to greatness. Key phrase. If you wish to be ruler over many, now wishing to be great would seem as a statement of your own self-interest, which is true. But we're talking now about enlightened self-interest. Find a way to serve. Now we come to the next one. If you wish to be ruler over many, nothing wrong with that, to be ruler over many. Here's what it says. Be faithful when the amounts are small. To rule over many, be faithful when you have just a few. Someone says, well, if I had a big organization, I'd really take good care of it. But I've only got 3 or 4. I don't know where they are. See, that's not the key. The key is to really know where the 3 or 4 are. Take exceptionally good care of the 3 or 4. Because if you become faithful, if you become disciplined in giving your best attention and the best you've got to the few, now you begin to qualify now to have the many to preside over. The many will come if you pass the test of the few. Someone says, if I had a fortune, I'd really take good care of it, but I've only got a paycheck. I don't know where it goes. See, that's interesting. If we ask you, what about your money? You say, I don't know where it all goes. Well, should we let you run the company? You don't know where it all goes? He says, yeah, my money just gets away from me. Oh, we should let you run the world, right? No. Because if you can't be master over a few pennies, should we give you a fortune? The answer is no way. Let's see what this person does with a paycheck. Then life and opportunity will decide later whether they deserve to double, triple, quadruple their income, multiply it by 10. Why multiply it by 10 if you don't do a good job with what it is? So the key to greatness in your own self-interest is find a way to serve, and number 2, be faithful when the amounts are small. Now here's what's exciting. Learning to give is in your own best interest. It doesn't seem like giving something is in your own best interest. But here's what it says. If you wish to receive, and if you wish to receive, we would call that wishing for your own self-interest, wishing to receive. But here's how you receive in your own best interest, and that is to give. If you give, you will receive. And you cannot understand that unless you're educated. From the very earliest moments of being a child, you can't understand that unless you're educated. In fact, here's what it says. It's better to give than to receive. Now, see, at first, that doesn't seem right. At first, but here's what you can get at first. Faked out until you become educated. At first, it seems like it's better to receive than it is to give. And you say, no, you must be educated to understand. It's better to give than it is to receive. Now, here's why. Giving starts the receiving process. Wouldn't that be acting in your own self-interest, is to do something that started the receiving process? And the answer is yes, now I understand. Now I can act in my own self-interest in an enlightened way instead of a destructive way. Next, in your own self-interest, life responds to deserve, not to need. These are some of the most important notes of the 2 days. If you understand this, the rest is probably simple. Life responds to deserve, not to need. Life was not designed to give us what we need. Life was designed to give us what we deserve. Now, not in a moral sense now. This is just in a basic sense. There are certain moral challenges as well, spiritual and moral. But here's what the great law says. It does not say, if you need, you will reap. That's not what it says. Someone says, well, I really need to reap. Then you must learn the basic law. And without education, see, you'll be left behind. Here's what it says. In order to reap, you must plant. Guess who deserves to reap? Those who plant. So, could I deserve something unique and valuable? Yes, if you understand the law, if you understand how it works in your own self-interest. We must plant, we must give to the soil, we must turn it loose, we must let it do its work, we must have patience, take care of it. Now we deserve the reaping. If you need, you must plant. Next, if you need to find, in your own self-interest, if you need to find, here's what it says, you must search to find. Finding is reserved for those that search. They're the ones that deserve it. Somebody who says, well, this person really needs to find a good idea, then they must go searching. You must go to the library. You must go to the seminars. You must go to the sermon. You must go to and listen to the lyrics of the song. You must go to where education is being taught. You must go to where good ideas are being shared. Go to, go to. Rarely does a good idea interrupt you. Rarely. Good ideas are like mining for gold. You've got to develop the mental machinery to go look, go sifting, go searching, go looking. And if you search, what? You will find. The promise is there for everyone in their own self-interest. You'll find all you need to find. If you search for it, you'll find everything you need for your health, everything you need for a flourishing lifestyle, everything you need for a good marriage, everything you need to strengthen your friendship, everything you need for economics. You will find if you'll do like you did today. Spend a couple of days searching, taking a look, seeing if someone has some good ideas to share. All things are conditional. God says, I'm an amateur on God, but God says, if you'll move toward me, I will move toward you. It's always conditional. Which could also be translated, God says, you don't move, I don't move. You say, well, that's arbitrary. Well, when you're God, you can set it up that way. Remember, your planet, you can rearrange all this. Change it all. But on this one, here's what's interesting. What you move toward tends to move toward you. If you move toward education, education starts to seek you out. This is one of the unique positive mysteries. Whatever you move toward moves toward you. If you move toward progress, progress seems to want to now embrace you, move toward you. All life seems to wish to reward its benefactor. If you become the benefactor, you'll receive these incredible rewards. If you're the benefactor to the garden, the flowers seem to bloom and say, look at me, look how bright and beautiful I am because you took care of me. I wish to reward you by being beautiful, lovely, spectacular. Your own children, if you become their benefactor, they want to reward you with their progress. I taught my daughters how to swim, right? My daughters would say, and to dive. And my daughters would say, Daddy, watch. Look, watch. Look what you've created here. I mean, you've spent the time with me and, when it didn't go well, now look at me. This is the payoff. Watch me dive. I was their benefactor. Now all life wishes to respond to the benefactor. Those who give their time, give their effort, give their patience, give their ideas, the benefit of their experience. Now, whatever has benefited from that wishes to respond. The crop wishes to grow. The child wishes to show you how much progress they've made. That is so exciting. Okay. Here's the last part on this. In your own self-interest, it's better to pay. Right? It's better to pay than to get it for free. Someone says, I wish I could get it for free. Not really. Because for free doesn't make anything of you. Here's a good phrase to remember. I wish to pay fair price for everything, for what it makes of me to pay. For the development I must achieve, to be able to pay, that's more valuable than to pay and to receive. Promise is on the other side of price. Should we give you the promise without the price? And the answer is no. That would violate the whole deal. Helping kids to change their vocabulary. A child says, I need $10. Said, that doesn't unlock the vault here. What unlocks the vault? How could I earn $10? Now, see, there's plenty of money here. You just got to use the right language. And the vault comes open. There's the money. There's the door. If you use the right language, part of it is language. We're going to learn tomorrow about financial independence. Part of it's language. Here's what I teach kids, not to have a savings account. It's important not to have a savings account. Here's what's important, to have an investment account. You want an account that pays. I said, oh, I understand. An investment account, not a savings account. An account that pays you interest. So, the magic language around the house for the kids. How can I earn $5? Not I need $5, not give me $5. How could I earn $5? How could I earn $10? Now here's what's important. Even more important than the $10 that achieves the objective is the development, the personal development that comes from being able to pay. Being able to pay is more valuable than receiving. Getting something is never enough. Paying for it, earning it is the real value. I got 4 parts to the day that turns your life around, and then we're finished for the day. Number 1, disgust. Disgust is a negative emotion, but it can have a very positive, powerful effect. Disgust says, I've had it. What an important day that could be. I met a beautiful, powerful, accomplished executive lady in New York. The company invited me to come in. This lady was the vice president, extraordinary lady. I got to know her, and I found out her story. I said, how did you get here? Big income. And she never went to college, never went to university. I said, how did you get here? Executive, powerful, income. She said, well, let me tell you part of the scenario. She said, when I was a young mother a few years ago, she said, one day I asked my husband for $10. And he said, what for? Before that day was over, I decided I would never, ever ask again. She said, I started studying opportunity, found it, took the classes, put myself through the schools, did the scenario. Now I'm vice president. I make a lot of money. And she said, I kept my promise. I've never, ever had to ask again. It's called a life-changing day. The day you say, enough is enough. Now, if you can add an act to your disgust, it helps. The man takes a shotgun to his car, blows out every window, destroys every tire, puts 100 rounds in it, and says, I've driven this embarrassing thing for the last time. And then he saves it. He saves it. And later when somebody says, how did you become rich and powerful? He says, let me show you this car. One day I'd had it up to here. I blew it to smithereens. Here's the last three. Next is decision. Decision-making is a life-changing day. If you went home today and in the next few days cleaned up a list of decisions, it could furnish enough inspiration for the next 5 years, 10 years. What an inspiring day, the day you can bring yourself to decide. And here's the third one, desire, wanting too bad enough. Who knows the mystery of that? We don't know. But here's something I do know. Sometimes desire waits for a trigger, waits for something to happen. Who knows what the happening may be? A song, the lyrics, a movie, the dialogue, a seminar, a sermon, a book, an experience, confrontation with an enemy, a conversation with a friend who finally levels with you. Whatever the experience it is, it's so valuable. And here's my best advice. Welcome all experiences. You never know which one is going to turn everything on. Don't put up the walls. The same wall that keeps out disappointment keeps out happiness. Take down the walls. Go for the experience. Let it teach you. And here's the last one. Resolve. Resolve says I will. Two of the most powerful words in the language. Best definition of resolve I got from a little junior high girl, Foster City, California. I'm going through some words one day. I got to this one and I asked the kids, who can tell me what resolve means? Some didn't know, some tried. Interesting. The last one was the best. Little girl about 3 rows back, she said, I think I know, Mr. Rohn. I said, what? She said, I think resolve means promising yourself you will never give up. I said, that's the best I've ever heard. She's probably giving seminars somewhere today, right? I mean, that's the best I've heard. I asked the kids, how long should a baby try to learn how to walk? How long would you give your average baby? Any mother in the world would say, you're crazy. My baby is going to keep trying what? Until. What a magic word. I want you to write it down. Until. Promise yourself you'll read the books until your skills change. You'll go to seminars until you get a handle on it. You'll listen to it until it makes sense. You'll go for it until you understand it. You'll practice it until you develop the skill. Never give up until, however long that is. Then you'll discover some of life's best treasures when you pay that.
Ready? Say I'm ready. Great. Okay, we covered your personal development library. Let's make these notes now on the 5 abilities in your personal development quest. The 5 abilities. First, develop the ability to absorb. Part of the challenge here is to, try to get it all. And taking notes and thinking about the notes you're taking. I know it's almost overload. I understand that, and you're doing a fantastic job. But the first key is to get it. I teach the kids in school. I mentioned in one of these other seminars. Nothing worse than being stupid, so you got to gather up all the ideas you possibly can. You can sort through them later, discard what you're not going to use, refine, do whatever you want. But the first key is to get it. Right? Nothing worse than being stupid. Being broke is bad, but being stupid is really bad. And what's really, really bad is being broke and stupid, right? You've already listened to the cassettes. Broke and stupid. That's about it. Unless you're ill. Sick. Sick, broke, and stupid. About as far as you can fall unless you're ugly. Yes, you got it. You've heard all that stuff.
That's the ultimate negative life scenario. Ugly, sick, broke, and stupid. So here's the key. To get it in whatever form you can. You know, we get it by cassette. We get it by recordings. We get it by video. We get it by sermon. You know, we get it by lyrics from the songs, the dialogue in the movie. We get it from personal conversation. We get it from classes. We get it from seminars. Every possible way. The key is to get it and to absorb, to take in. Here's what else, not just ideas, but life itself. Your mind needs to be like a perpetual recorder, recording your life experiences. I've got a friend who's so good at this. He can read a 200-page book in 45 minutes. And then he can tell you about the book and make it more interesting than if you read it yourself. It's a gift to be able to get it, to see it, to have it affect you. It's marvelous. Better to have him go to Acapulco and come back and tell you about it than it is to go yourself. And here's why. If he goes, he won't miss anything. He'll see it all. He'll experience it all. Right? And then he's got this incredible gift of articulation and translation. When he comes back, he can tell you about it. To where you can feel the water lapping on your feet. You can smell the aroma of the foods. You can see the color in the people. It's amazing. But first, in order to be able to translate, first you have to get it. So don't be lazy now in acquiring life experience, translated to consciousness, translated to ideas, put in your journal, put in your heart, put in your soul. Getting it. It's vitally important. Now here's the next ability, and that's to respond, to let it touch you, let it affect you. Let happy things make you happy, let sad things make you sad. Because we need not only to be educated, we need to be impressed. We need to be affected. We need to be moved. We need to be stirred. We need to have things to make an impression on our mind, on our soul, so that it lingers, so that it stays, so that it's available to use in communicating with other people. To absorb, let life touch you. Don't let it kill you, but let it touch you. Here's the third ability, and that's to reflect on it all. I call it run the tapes again. Go back over your experience to make it even more vivid, more powerful, make a bigger impression. Here's some good times to reflect. One, at the end of the day. Just take a few minutes to go back over the day. Maybe make a few notes. Keeping a journal is, mine is part diary, part journal. If I was here today, I'd be taking notes. But I also use it, who I've seen and where I've been, and I'm flying from Tokyo to Singapore. Just, run the tapes again at the end of the day. Think back. Who did you meet and who did you see? And what did they say and how did you feel? So that day now is more available, more valuable to you than just another day. At the end of the week, take a few hours at the end of the week just to reflect over the week. The experiences you had, the good ones and the bad ones, the highs and the lows. Part of the gift you can give to others is the gift of your experience, if you remember it. If it's vivid, if it's powerful, if it's fresh, if it's unique, if it's vital. You can really affect other people with the relating your own experiences just because you weren't too lazy to live the experience and then reflect on it. Live another week and reflect on it. Take a half a day at the end of the month. Reflecting over the month. What were the numbers? Some weren't good, some were good. The books you read, the books you heard about, relating your experiences at the end of the month. At the end of the year, take a weekend. Take some time. Reflecting. Here's the key to gather up the past and invest it in the future. Experience is like commodity. It's like coin. Experience is currency. It's more valuable than $1. It's more valuable than $1 million. Your experiences can affect other people's lives. Your experiences invested in your sales career, invested in your parenting career. Not being lazy in getting it, living it, getting it, responding to it, remembering it, gathering it. Now it becomes like a vast account from which to draw. powerful. When my father was about to turn 76, I remember telling him, Papa, imagine gathering up the last 75 years and investing them in your 76th year. Think of what an investment you've got to put into the next year. Year 76. 75 years you've got to put in year 76. See, that's a whole different attitude than I think I can hang on one more year. I mean, you just got to approach it with a whole new approach. I'm going to take all the stuff I've learned and be more conscious of having it near the surface, emotions and emotional experiences near the surface, so that they're available to invest in the next conversation, invest in helping someone else, and invest in your own thinking. You can revitalize your own thinking by going over past experiences, things that you've accomplished that you'd forgotten about, and say, hey, if I did that, why couldn't I do this? You refresh yourself by reviewing, going over the past, reflecting. In ancient times, they worked 6 years and took the 7th, or they worked 9 years and took the 10th. Guess what that 10th year was called? The sabbatical. Take time. Now, part of the sabbatical, I'm sure, was change of pace, and part of it was, whatever. But here was part of the sabbatical, to go back over the previous years. And if we go back over the previous years by taking enough time, not just a couple of minutes, but take some time, make some notes, develop some working papers. No telling now how valuable the last 9 could be if we reflect for a year. Now the next 9 could be 2, 3, 4, 10 times more productive by taking this time and learning this skill. Time away is reflecting time. And you got to get away. That's what my motorhome is for. I got a little motorhome. And I throw my dirt bike on the back and head for the mountains to get away where there's no traffic lights. Ride the Jeep trails. Watch the sunset. Just to reflect and ponder and wonder. Somebody asked me the other day if I meditate. And I said, well, I don't know if my meditation is formal, but I do ponder. Ponder. I don't know how close that is. That's probably close. I wonder. I take hours to sometimes just wonder what life is all about and where I'm headed and what I've done and what I should be doing. I wonder about that. I wonder at the immensity of it all. They got these new pictures now with the new telescope off out into space, and it's unbelievable. And you wonder, awestruck. That's probably a form of meditation. I mull. Do you mull? Everybody should mull. It means something different in Australia, but I ponder, I wonder, I mull, I think. That's probably close to meditation. But it's good. It's very important to take that time away. I now seek solitude for all my public life, for all the flying on the airplanes and all the seminars and all the speeches and all the stuff around the world. You can't imagine how much I value getting away, a bit of solitude, not forever, but for a while. I'm even putting a fax machine now in my motorhome so I can be away but still be in touch. My new mode for the future is in touch and out of reach. I want him to say, yes, you can contact him, but you can't find him. For a while. For a while. Just for a while. Jesus, the master teacher, every once in a while would disappear. I say, where is he? He said, every once in a while he just disappears. Not forever, but he just goes away. And that's not bad advice. Just go away for a while. Just get away. There's another interesting illustration that says every once in a while you should go to your closet. And you're not like a real closet, but a closet sort of means where you not shut yourself in, but for a little while you shut everything out. And you get away into a closet, into a place away from the hustle and the bustle and the traffic and the horns and the jet engines and all of the rest that's happening. And just get away and do some thinking and reflecting and pondering. What about the values of your life? Because some things are so constructive if you'll just give it some time. You look back and say, wow, I spent too much money and too much time on that. right? I'm not going to let that happen again. That much money and that much time and this little value. So that's so helpful. Now, sometimes you get away with somebody, or you get away with your wife or your husband, or you get away with your whole family and ponder and talk over some things. But here's one. You got to remember this. Solitude. You've got to spend some time alone. I think it's so constructive. It is so helpful to do your own private thinking. It's a good skill to learn. So we've got to learn to absorb, we've got to learn to respond, we've got to learn to reflect. Now here's the next one, learn to act. Now we've got to make all of this stuff useful. There's no use building a whole reservoir of this stuff if you don't use it. And it can be an inexhaustible supply available to use, but now you've got to use it. And if you don't, here's what you live. We call the get-by life. And it's okay to get by. You're not starving to death. Your kids have got clothes. But you may only be 1% toward the abundance you could have simply by being a little careless and not doing this stuff. But now we gather up this stuff, and now the key is to put it into action. We now spend this capital by investing it in labor so that it produces a better marriage, it produces friendship, it produces income, it produces fortune, it produces something tangible, builds a city, conquers disease, does something of value, creates a symphony, right? Enriches a community, helps to relieve suffering. Whatever you can think of to use this stuff, now it must be put into activity because the stuff is an imponderable supply. But what if you had a $10 million bank account and all you wrote was $1 checks? Wouldn't people consider you a little strange? And the answer is yes, if you got a $10 million bank account. And you write a $1 check, and then you write another $1 check, just enough to get by and have something to eat and a place to get in out of the weather. But see, with a $10 million bank account, you should write a little larger check. So your experiences, if you reservoir it this way, if you treat it as incredible value, it's an unlimited supply. Now start writing some checks by investing it in activity. The time to act is when the emotion is high. Because here's the law that sets in if you're not careful, the law of diminishing intent. If you wait too long, what you intended to do just diminishes and diminishes with too much passage of time. So when you're inspired, employ that inspiration. When you've got an idea, employ it, put it to work. And you may not even finish it, and you may discard it after a while, but at least give it a chance to have a life of its own. Give it a chance. See if this seed won't grow into something unique by putting it to work, acting. Action translates the reservoir of experience into major human productivity if you'll use it wisely. So we absorb and we respond, we reflect and we act. Now here's the ultimate, and that is to share it all. What you want to make sure is that you have a life process that's giving you more than you personally need for yourself. One of the reasons for creating abundance is to be able to share. R.J. Letourneau, that built the big earth-moving machines way back in the early part of the century. R.J. Letourneau finally reached the point which was one of his goals, and that was to give away 90% of his income. 90%. Somebody says, wow, 90%, that's an awful lot to give away. You should have seen the 10% that was left. But wouldn't that be something? To create such abundance, you could give away 90%? Here was Andrew Carnegie's goal, to spend the first half of his life earning money, and to spend the last half of his life giving it all away. He was so inspired by that goal that the first half of his life he accumulated $400 million, which back then was a lot of money. Right? Not that much now, but back then, 400 million was a staggering fortune. Guess what he did the last half of his life? He gave it all away. See, that's the reason for producing, that's the reason for accumulating, is to have more than you need. All right? Somebody says, well, why produce more than you need? To enjoy this unbelievable adventure called the ability to bless others, the ability to give, and the ability to share. That's so important to share. Now, here's what's important about sharing. It acts in your own self-interest. When you share, it isn't gone, really. It isn't. It's like the law that says if you give, what? It doesn't say if you give, it's gone. Say, no. Here's what it really says. If you give, it's invested. Now, see, that's unique language. And what do you expect from an investment? A return. Of course you would expect a return from an investment. Why would you make the investment? Is to expect a return. But now here's the colossal part of it. Many times it returns multiplied. How does that work? Who cares how it works? We don't know how it works. You don't need to study it. All you need to know what? It works by making the investment of sharing. By sharing, many times the person who shares receives the greater benefit. Now that's a bit in your own self-interest, but why not involve yourself in your own self-interest if everybody wins, if nobody loses, if you are the greatest benefactor? One of the greatest benefits of sharing with you this seminar, these 2 days, is for what I'm going to get out. Right? I should have paid to get in. For what I'm going to receive. Because here's what I do for 2 days. Struggle with the language. I struggle with another way to say it, another unique way to say it. Because if I can make it clear for you, it helps to what? Make it clear for me. If it rings a bell for you, it rings a bell for me. If I do my best to try to inspire you, guess what it does? It inspires me. If I say, try it, guess what I'm going to think? I should try it. So if you share, if you give, the person who gives probably receives a greater benefit. But since that's, I guess, the way it's meant to be, then just operate this and you will act highly in your own self-interest. Here's what else sharing does. Makes room for more when you give what you got. If this cup is full, can it hold any more? If this cup is full, there's only one way for it to hold any more, and that is to pour some out. So take what you've got, start pouring it out. You'll have room for more to be poured in. But why should we pour more in if there isn't any room? Say, no. Just start pouring this out, and then this supply just keeps coming. As long as you keep pouring, it keeps coming. Right? As long as it's going out, it's going to be coming in. So if you give, you will receive. Let it flow through you. That kind of sharing, so valuable. Now, some people have got their cup turned upside down. I mean, there's nothing going in, certainly nothing coming out. We share by language, we share by emotion, we share by experience. Here's one of the most important commodities to share is your time. A piece of your life force, your time. But if you will share, life has this unique way of rewarding those who pass on and share those great benefits of ideas and experiences and emotions and stuff that comes your way. Pour it out on as many people as you can reach in your lifetime. Okay. Now here's the last subject under personal development. Lifestyle. When we talk about those 5 elements I wrote down earlier, 1 was philosophy, 2nd was attitude, 3rd was activity, the disciplines to labor, 4th was measuring results to see if you're making progress, and 5 was lifestyle. Here's the greatest essence of life, and that's living well. Weaving a tapestry of life experiences. Let me borrow now from that seminar on lifestyle these words. What constitutes a good life? What is a good life? Because that's the highest essence of life, is to live a good life. Let me give you a pretty good list. Here's number 1, productivity. You won't be happy if you don't produce. That's why the 6-1 was arranged, so that you spend the greater part of your life and your time producing. Producing a working day, produce an idea and make it fly. Produce an enterprise and make it grow. Produce a relationship and give it life. To produce, to create progress. You won't be happy if you don't produce. Work to do that. There's an ancient script that says, the sleep of a laboring man is sweet. Someone who labors to produce with their hands, who works hard, that sleep is sweet. Not the sleep of a goof-off man. No, not the sleep of a drifting man. The sleep of a laboring man. Somebody who works, puts in the time and the effort and the work and the labor. Whether you labor with your hands or labor with your voice or whatever you do, physical, spiritual, personal, that labor produces good sleep. So we must produce. But here's the rest of a good life. Next is friendship. The greatest support system in the world probably is friendship. And you've got to nourish your friendships. Don't lose contact. Keep in touch. We all have to work on that. Letting too much time go by between visits and conversation and telephone and letters, personal contact, so that you keep alive this reservoir of goodwill in terms of friendship that can give you support when you really need it. Develop this support system. Good friends. Those people who know all about you and still like you, right? Good friends. Next is your culture. America understands this probably better than any other country. The dynamics of culture, especially the dynamics of multiculture. A single culture is dynamic, but when you put together multicultures like America, it can produce the most stunning results. It can produce the most incredible wealth, such as never been known to the world in 6,000 years. The wealth that has been created by multicultures working together, contributing to each other. What one lacks, the other one's got. What one got's, the other one shares. What one doesn't have, the other one puts it in. What one doesn't know, the other one does know. And you put that all together, and it becomes a tapestry of investment second to none that produces a country that's unlike any in 6,000 years. There's been nothing like it. And part of it is this multicultural contribution, mutual contribution of cultures. But now here's what's important to keep your culture alive, so that it continues to make its dramatic contribution. Don't let the music die. Don't do like the Israelis did, of years past, the Israelites. It said they hung their harps on the willow, went through a couple of bad experiences and refused to play the harps. Say, come on, get a life, get over it, right? Let's get the harps down off the willows and begin to play, because that's what made us rich. The music made us rich, and the poetry made us rich, and the songs made us rich, and the work ethic made us rich. The religious philosophy has made us rich. Let us engage in that. Let's awaken all of that stuff again so that we continue to be a great nation and a great people. We've got to remember that. Keep your culture alive so that it keeps making the contribution, the literature and the drama and the dance and the art and whatever other contribution, the ceremonies and the traditions. That's very important not to let that die. It's made America unique. You can't find an American. We came from everywhere else, except, the American Indian. And that's about it. Everybody else came here from somewhere. And fortunately, when they came, they brought their language. They brought their food. They brought their music. They brought the dynamics of their culture. That's what makes us unique. We're proud of being Japanese Americans and Mexican Americans and Chinese Americans and Italian Americans. We all came from somewhere, either one generation or a couple of generations or 2 or 3 back. We all came here from somewhere. Whether it's from, we call the motherland England, where is a major part of our heritage. But it is so vital. A big part of it gave America its religious heritage. From England, we got God Save the King. Some people are a little suspicious about this God stuff. It's part of our heritage. We were not embarrassed to borrow the God Save the King. We thought, hey, that's a good idea to reverence God. Now, some people in building a new country would have left the God thing out, but America didn't, which is good. In fact, in our Pledge of Allegiance, we made sure that it stayed. One nation under God. We don't mind saying that. Now, some countries wouldn't put the under God stuff in the deal, but America does, which I think is a good deal. We even put it America's declaration of faith on the money. Here's what it says on this $100 bill. In the $100 we trust. No. No. It says what? In God we trust. See, you don't even have to look. You know it's on the money. Every coin, I don't know of any other country that does this, makes the national statement of faith so evident by putting it on every piece of money, every coin, and putting it in the Pledge of Allegiance. It's very important. Somebody says, well, they've thrown prayer out of the school. Well, put up the money. Just put up the money. When I travel around the world, people ask me, how come America does so well? And I say, read the money. I think that's part of it. Now, that's my personal belief. Everybody's entitled to their own belief. But I think that's personal belief is what's on the money. So I promised myself a long time ago that I was going to make a lot of money and spend a lot of it in cash around the world, saying, read the money, read the money. Interesting. Now, a lot of places, even in America, wouldn't put this up on the wall. In God we trust. But that's our diversity of belief, whether you're a believer or non-believer, God, not God. Everybody's welcome here to whatever belief they have because we believe in freedom of expression, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, freedom to worship, whatever is your persuasion. That's what has made us spectacular. Incredible. So culture. Now, here's what's next. Don't miss anything in lifestyle. Just don't neglect the experiences you can have. Some people watch too much television and they neglect all of the experiences they can have. There's a lake in Idaho called Lake Louie. You can drive within 2 miles and then you've got to get out of your car, put the little outboard motor on your back and your fishing pole, and you got to hike the last 2 miles. But when you get there, it is one of the most serene places in all of the world, undisturbed. And you put this little outboard motor on an old raft that's up there. You go put, put, put out across, and the sun's just coming up about 6:15, and you cast out there for those rainbows. When one of those things hits your line, whew, it is an ultimate high. One, you're about 5,000 feet up. That's a high. A mile high. That's one of the best kinds of high is a mile high. They fight you to the death, these rainbows. Big red stripe down the side, white underbelly, black on top. Amazing. See, you can't have that experience watching the Today Show. You got to get up what? About 4:30 in the morning. And that's what I'm asking you to do more often. Get up at 4:30 in the morning and go create for yourself more experiences. So jot this down. Life is not just the passing of time. Life is a collection of experiences. Their frequency and their intensity. The frequency and the intensity of experiences. That's what life is all about. That collection. So don't get trapped into wasting time. Not that watching a television show isn't a waste of time. You know, there's plenty of good stuff. But don't use it as your only source of life experience. Don't miss the game. Don't miss the show. Don't miss the performance. Before my father died at age 93, if you would have called him at 10:30, 11 o'clock, he wouldn't be home. He's at the ball game. He's at the rodeo. He's at church. He's somewhere. Watching the kids play softball. He's somewhere. Every night. My parents taught that. Don't miss anything. Another experience, another rich experience, another time, another time. Elgin Baylor played basketball 1 year in Caldwell, Idaho, where I graduated high school. Just 1 year, Elgin Baylor. My papa used to go see him every time he played. R.C. Owens, one of the great pass catchers of all time, played 1 year at the College of Idaho. My father went to see him every time he played. Even in a small little community. Don't miss whatever comes to town. Don't miss, don't miss. Don't miss the movie. A movie's probably the greatest value in the world. Costs $60 million to make it, $6 to see it. Now, jot this down. If you live well, you will earn well. If you live well, it'll show in your face. If you live well, it'll show in the texture of your voice and your language. If you live well, you'll be attractive. And success is something you attract by becoming an attractive person. Work hard. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Work hard, play hard. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. One thing you don't want to be is dull. So, in the time away from your labor, in the time away from your commercial obligations, your commercial work, engage in all of this stuff. Don't miss. Collecting every day, every week that's possible, collect. So that your experiences now infuse your commercial time, your working time, your selling time, your recruiting time, building an organization time, constructing an enterprise time. If you will do that, not postpone all of this till some later time, as soon as, but weave it in. That's what we call a good life. Next is spirituality. Whatever you believe, study, practice, teach. It doesn't matter what the religion is. It doesn't matter what the spiritual persuasion is. Be a student of it. Don't neglect its research. Don't neglect its study. Don't neglect its origins. Don't neglect the contribution it could make currently to your life, and give your spirituality a chance now to infuse. You don't have to talk about it all the time. Just so that it affects, it has an unseen magical effect in your performance, in how you treat people, in everyday life. If you'll use all of that, and don't neglect it, but study it and practice it and teach it, I'm telling you, it will serve you well. Next, do all the things that make you unique. Shove taught me all of this about lifestyle. So that you can enjoy your own uniqueness, not to make it a display, but so that you can enjoy yourself. The great philosophy says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Now, here's one of the ways to create unique self-love, and that's to make yourself unique to yourself. This doesn't have to be publicized. It doesn't have to go on television. It doesn't have to be displayed in a seminar. Just so you consciously know that you are doing the things that makes you unique. And it makes you unique because of what you do and the way you live and the way you speak. But the uniqueness is primarily appreciated by yourself. You can't believe what that does for your self-esteem. It's off the scale. And anybody can practice it. Shof taught me what the word tip meant. I didn't know. What do I know? I knew milk and cows. I didn't know tip. What does tip mean? What? Tips means to ensure prompt service. So when should you give it? Shof said, up front. Now see, I didn't know that. I said, no, good service, good tip, lousy service, lousy tip. Shof said, no, to ensure good service, if the occasion calls for it, up front. I learned how to do that. Shof said, you're taking a special friend out to lunch? This is a special occasion now. Special friend out to lunch? You call Mary over, the waitress. Call Mary. Mary, arm around the shoulder. Mary, here's $10. Would you take special care of me and my friend? Shof said, you won't believe what happens. He said, Mary will hover around your table. They know how to hover. But it takes $10 to get them to hover. Without that, in the middle of the meal, you're just saying, where's my waitress? She must be gone on a break. Say, no. And Shof taught me when the occasion is special, up front. I took a beautiful lady once to Trader Vic's in Beverly Hills. She was so surprised. When we got there, these two attendants come walking out. Hello, Mr. Rohn. She says, wow. Opened up both doors, let us out. We went in, had this fabulous meal. And I said, okay, we're ready to go. We walk by, pay the bill, walk out. As soon as we walk through the door, my car is right there with the doors open and the motor's running. My lady friend said, I can't believe this. I said, hey, this is some place here. So we get in the car and we drive away. And we haven't gone but a couple of blocks. She says, Jim, hold it. You got to go back. I said, why? She said, with all of that service when we got there, and then the car, and then the doors, she said, you didn't tip anybody. We got to go back. I said, no, it'll be okay. She said, no, we got to go back. Then I had to tell her that I made a trip to Trader Vic's long before we went there, and I made sure that it all happened, right? If the occasion is special, right? right? Learn to do the deals. Shoaff taught me the smallest things. Said you get a shoe shine, and the shoe shine boy's done a great job. Now you got some change. Should I give him 1 quarter or 2? Shoaff said always go for the higher amount. 2 quarters instead of 1. Most people 1, you 2. Not to display to the world, but to yourself. Shoaff said, this is a good note to make, become a 2-quarter person. Now the amount has gone up since he taught me that. So. He said, if you just give 1 quarter, that'll affect you the rest of the day. 1 lousy quarter. And you look at your shine, if you go for the 2 quarters, he said, that'll affect you the rest of the day. Become a 2-quarter person. I learned those simple, little, easy things. Okay. One time, my lady friend and I were heading for Carmel. We stop in the station. This kid comes dashing out, whistling and singing, said, how are you? Services the car, does all this stuff. Gives us the most unbelievable service. So I had said to him, we're about to head for Carmel. I said, where's the nearest Baskin Robbins? We need an ice cream. While we go. And he said, just right down here, just a couple of blocks. And he said, don't park out front. Your car might get hit. Park around by the side. I said, okay. Unbelievable service. So we walk into Baskin Robbins, and instead of buying 2 milkshakes, we buy 3. Go back to the station. And I drive up, and he says, hey, I see you got your milkshakes. And I said, yes, and this one is for you. He said, for me? I said, yeah, all the service. When I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror, and he was like this. And I don't know what it cost back then, $1? A couple of dollars? It doesn't take much, not to prove to somebody else, but for what it does of itself, for what it does for you, that you can honestly say, here's the person I am becoming. I now can respect myself for what I am becoming. I'm asking you to engage in that kind of lifestyle that creates for you this immense feeling of what you do, not to be observed, but for what it does for your psyche and your consciousness and your soul, that kind of lifestyle. Okay. Let me introduce you now to communications, and then we're going to quit for the evening. Communications. I did a lecture not too long ago at Crystal Cathedral for a men's conference. In fact, another one's coming up, I think, next month. Here was the title of my lecture. Words have almost the power of God. Words have almost the power of God. I said the Christian story says, in the beginning, God spoke and said, let there be light. And those words created light. Someone says, yes, God's words could create light. But here's the key. Human words can be almost as powerful. And here's what human words can create. Insight, which is light. The light of insight. Not the light of the sun, but the light of the consciousness. And human words can do that. It's called the unseen magic. Let's say someone cannot see how they can possibly be successful, and you come along and tell them your testimonial, choosing the best words you can. And when you finish, here's what they say. Now I can see. Before you got here, I was blind. Before you got here, I was in the dark. Now that you've talked to me, I'm beginning to see. It's beginning to dawn on me. The lights are going on. Human beings have the unique ability by language. That's why you never want to be lazy in language. By language, we have the ability to unlock someone's consciousness and get them to see something they've never seen before. And this experience called insight can be the beginning of a career. It can be the beginning of an enterprise. It can be the beginning of a whole brand new life when the lights go on. It is so powerful. So I'm asking you to use your words that are so powerful. Use them in your business. Use them in your sales career. Use them in your parenting career. Use them in your daily life. And let the power of words affect people everywhere you go. Transform somebody's life. A new beginning for them to look into things that they've never seen before. I'm just asking you to do that. Words are that powerful. Develop a unique vocabulary that can reach anybody, whether it's a child or whether it's a teenager or whether it's a senior citizen or whether it's a business person or a person you meet on the street or the taxi driver. Learn to have a variety of language that can help people Tell a unique story that makes someone laugh. Tell a unique experience that causes people to smile. And, right? Give them a piece of your life by the language. It is the tools by which we take experience and transfer it from one person to another. Language can be the bridge that helps someone from the dark to the light, from skepticism to faith, from not knowing to knowing. You be the bridge by language to help people that are insecure to become secure, that can't see themselves as successful, and you can help them to see themselves better than they are before they can see it for themselves. If you will do that by your language, no telling what you can accomplish. It is so staggering. It's so extraordinary in its concept. And tomorrow, we're going to spend some time tomorrow morning talking about the art of persuasion. We're going to talk about affecting other people with language and words and what it'll do for your career and your life, your home life, your business life, and your family life, and all of the rest. Communication. It's a skill unmatched. I learned sales. Sales was the beginning of my new discovery of how powerful language was in affecting my income. Then I learned how powerful it was in affecting my whole life. And we'll talk about all of those phases and all of those possibilities when we get back together tomorrow. See you tomorrow.
This is the end of this disc. The program continues on the next CD.